Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us here today. We're brought to you by Russell and Associates, and we're coming to you from the Latch Development Center at 111 Riverfront Street in downtown Winona. And we're joined today by two of the Warrior coaches, of course, head coach Brian Bergstrom and Pete Menich, the special teams coach. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, a lot of stuff to talk about, but I have to say at the beginning of the show, we did plan this last week. We were talking at the end of the show about who we wanted on this week, and you said, let's get the special teams guys on. And then we go out and have a huge special teams game. Tell us a little bit about the game from your perspective with special teams.
Well, I think this was the best example of us playing together all three phases. And special teams is a huge, huge part of that. And whether it was all the field goals we made, being perfect on the extra points, and then punting the ball well and keeping it down and controlling field position with the sky punt and kickoff team doing the same, and kickoff return have an opportunity to get a big return in the one opportunity that they had. It's just a great day all around.
All right, and Coach, first from your perspective about the game this week as the special teams coach, what was it like to have such success from all different phases of the game?
It was awesome to go out in all six special teams and have a little success. It's nice to see the kids respond to a challenge, and they really worked hard all week. It showed on the field.
All right, we'll get back to that in just a second, but since we have you on here, I want to find out a little bit about you. Tell us your history in football and coaching and with Coach Bergstrom.
Yeah, so I was a player at South Dakota State, played for a couple of years, and then got into coaching, student coach for Coach Bergstrom, working with the safeties at South Dakota State. Moved on into graduate assistant with the linebackers for a couple months, and then ended up moving on to Northern Illinois as the DBs and linebackers GA there for 2 years. And then just this February, got a call from Coach Bergstrom, and was fortunate enough to link back up with Coach here in Winona. So it's been an awesome ride with Coach Bergstrom, learning under him for my whole career, basically. So.
All right, well, obviously you have a history, but why did you want to bring him on the staff here at Winona State?
Well, you could tell when Pete was a player, and that's what I call him when he was a player. Pete, now I call him Coach Menich, but that he had a future in coaching because he thought the game that way and played the game the right way. And when it came time where his playing career was done, it was a no-brainer for me to see if he'd be interested in continuing on as a student coach and a graduate assistant. And when he had that opportunity to go to Northern Illinois and meet new people and learn new things, it was a great opportunity for him. And when we obviously had some openings on our staff in the transition and needed a linebackers / special teams coordinator, Coach was the first one I thought of, and knew that there was certainly going to be more people that were have more experience than Coach Menich, just due to age. But I had such a background with him and knew his wife Shaylee and their family is a perfect fit here. And we knew that at the time, and it's gone really well.
All right, let's then go back to the game and talk about that. One of the things that was kind of a surprise at the beginning of the game was that Moorhead went with their backup quarterback, Strand. Now, we didn't know ahead of time. I know coaches like to kind of keep that under wraps. Did you know ahead of time, or was that kind of a surprise to you, and how much did that throw you off at the beginning?
We did not know until the game started, and talking to their coaches afterwards, that was throughout the week of their preparation, they just felt like he gave them a better chance to win, so it wasn't an injury. That's just the guy they wanted to go with. So in reality, it didn't change the game plan a tremendous amount. It just was a different guy back there, and we were going to get after whoever it was.
So he did get on that roll early on and drove Moorhead down on the first drive, but then the defense stopped. Tell us a little bit about what happened and what changes were made on that first drive for you to get the stop.
Well, an offense like that is going to complete a lot of passes, and they're going to get yards, and they're going to get first downs, and you can't panic. And that's we saw exactly what can happen if you don't give up big plays. You make the tackle in space, because then you make the offense execute perfectly down the field, and they ended up messing up, and we ended up capitalizing on that and getting a takeaway. And it just shows the power of playing team defense, and then how that could impact momentum, because that then started a stretch where we started to play better, and then things really turned when we put a few good plays together.
All right, let's talk about special teams then, because during the game, you're going to get at least one kickoff. You're probably going to have some punts that you're going to have to throw out there. But I imagine a lot of the game is just kind of waiting and watching and seeing what the offense does and seeing what you need to plan for if they can't get a first down, or they get a couple first downs down the field, but then they can't get the ball in the end zone. So what do you do on the sidelines as special teams coordinator, and what do you do to keep the guys ready for when they need to get out on the field?
It's a lot like defense, where it's very reactionary. You're going with the flow of the game, and it's a lot of different people combining to, so you got offensive guys, defensive guys, and specialists all coming together. Really the whole team effort to make plays in that phase of the game that's oftentimes forgotten. But you have to stay on your toes, and if you do, and you really dive into that portion of the game, you can swing a game, as we saw on Saturday.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the quarterback play, because again, we saw the quarterback rotation. This is the first time that we saw it at Maxwell Field. We talked about it last week. Was it the plan to do two series, and what's the thinking behind that?
Well, they're playing better when they both play, and we had our best pass efficiency game, 20 for 30 and a lot of yards, and they took care of the football, no turnovers again, and won the takeaway battle, and that's huge. And they both have such respect for each other, and Coach Frichte and us as a staff, that they're just going to respond to whatever we ask them to do. And they, I think, feel a sense of calm when they know that, okay, I got a couple series and I'm going to come back out, regroup, go back in. And like we've said, if the game changes or a guy gets really hot or one of them's really struggling, we can change it throughout the game. But we like to give them two to get them a little bit in a flow of a couple series, but not too long where you're sitting out too long. So it's certainly not an exact science, but it's working right now.
All right. And then let's talk a little bit about the defense, because the defense had a really good game as well. Tell us what you saw in that phase of the game.
Well, Coach Menich and the other defensive coaches, Coach Curtin and Coach Erickson and Coach Race and Coach Johnson put a great plan together for one. And you saw our guys playing fast. And I think what stood out is how confident our guys were, how physical they were. By far, we were the more physical team in all phases on the field that day. And then when it's the third straight game, we've scored on defense with the pick six and a bunch of defensive guys involved in the punt block touchdown. The week before, Corbin's had the touchdown. The week before, we had safety, and that's huge. That swung the game. There's a stretch of about 4 plays with a big hit by Snitker, and then the punt block and a great kickoff, keeping them down there, tackled by Ike, and then we were able to score on defense when Clay intercepted it, and then the offense, then they went 3 and out again, Moorhead, and then the offense went down and scored. So it was a huge stretch.
All right, Coach Menich, let's talk a little bit about the defense. We'll talk about the special teams in the next segment. But as Coach said, Clay Scheffner, he had the pick six, but he's been playing big all season long. Tell us a little bit about that side of the ball.
Yeah, linebacker-wise, it starts with Clay. Special person and a special player. He very much owns his craft, and he's taken changes in the defense and his role kind of in stride, and he's really hitting it now. He's starting to see things happen in front of him, and really play fast. And he's done a great job leading our group and the defense as a whole. Aside from him, we've had a lot of guys step up. Miles Hawthorne has been awesome for us. Been the Davis had a good season. Ike, who we mentioned, kickoff is also makes great strides even since week 1. We just have a lot of guys that are stepping up and playing really good football, linebacker-wise, and defense as a whole.
All right, and then on the front line, Luke Bashinsky had back-to-back sacks late in the game, and then really kind of snuffed out any chance that Moorhead had. Tell us a little bit about that play as well.
Yeah, he certainly had a good stretch there, and he played a really good game, as did the whole defensive front. I don't even know how many times we hit the quarterback, but we were certainly active in the backfield with tackle for losses and sacks and QB hits, and Luke had the 2 in a row. He should have had another one if he would have stayed a little bit wider, but the whole group, like we've mentioned before, is playing really well. And Kaiwan Bengrowski is done a great job of late and plays with a really high motor and is really pushing the guys around him with a bunch of veterans in the room too. So it all starts up there. It's easier to play linebacker when the D-line's doing their job.
All right, and the last question that we've had the past couple of weeks, kind of overall grade. What do you think of the team at this point in the season?
This week, I think it was a solid B. The first couple of wins we thought was B-, and I think this win was different in that we did it all together, all 3 phases, and then we did it again in the second half because we really challenged them. We had a good first half, but that's done now. It's time for the new half because the old one doesn't matter, and it's 0-0, literally. And when you play 1-0 brand football, that's what it's about, because all that matters is what I'm about to do, not what I just did. So we're really proud of them, but we can play a lot better and more consistent.
All right, we are going to take a break here on Warrior Report, and when we come back, we'll talk special teams. Coach Menich will stay with us while Tristan Root and Morgan White join us as well. That's coming out right after this.
Have you seen the new Fox Sports app? Check this out. It's been designed so you can easily find everything that's important to you. You get all the top stories and scores, and then you tap here and boom, you're watching sports live on Fox. You can also follow your favorite teams and players and get all the latest news and social updates. There are even bonus cameras. It's got everything. The all-new Fox Sports app. Get it? Use it. You'll love it.
This is the only show devoted to amateur baseball. This is Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rawlings.
Left-handed stroke, a lot of whip, a lot of natural loft to it.
Ever since I started baseball, I've been working hard to reach my goal, and that is one day to get drafted and to make it to the MLB.
A two-seam changeup with me throwing a two-seam fastball.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We are coming to you from the 111 Riverfront Building, the Latch Development Center in downtown Winona, and we're brought to you by Russell and Associates. Time now to talk some special teams with Tristan Root, the punter for the Warriors, Morgan White, the long snapper, and of course Coach Menich, special teams coordinator. Tristan, I think we'll start with you because you had quite a game this past week, being able to recover a block punt in the end zone, which, again, we don't know for sure, but we think that this is the first time that a punter has been able to recover a block punt on the other side of the ball in the end zone. Tell us a little bit about that play and how that developed for you.
Yeah, it was just a great play. I mean, great overall punt block. I mean, Chance Backer got in there with a hand, and then the ball was just kind of lying out there, grabbed it, and then surrounded by a bunch of teammates, and that was one of the more fun plays of the game for me.
All right, and you're kind of unique as a punter because you also play on defense, which is why you're out there in special teams, but you kind of got more of a chance this week because there was an injury.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, it's kind of bittersweet. You get to play, but you're out there a little bit because of the injury. tell us that mentality and coming into the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a next man up type of mentality. You're kind of playing for the guy who got injured and your teammates. And then with the punting and the playing defense, it's really, when you got a bunch of teammates and a bunch of coaches around you that really support you and they care about you, it makes it a lot easier to do multiple positions at one time.
All right. Morgan, you come to us from Nevada, which is kind of an odd place to get a player here in Minnesota. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I had a friend I'm from Pahrump, Nevada. I'm right outside Vegas, about 40 miles. One of my buddies, his family is from Winona. So he was going to go, and he started his freshman year here, not playing football, just as a student. And he told me, he's like, hey, try to get to play football in Winona and come out there, we could live together. So I was like, all right. So I sent the email to one of the coaches here, prior coaches, and never got back to me. And then probably 3 months later, he had gotten in contact with my coach, and he was like, hey, come on out. He didn't even know that I emailed him. So yeah, kind of went full circle and came out here. So.
All right, and then your background, you've been a wrestler, you've been a track and field athlete, and a football player. How did football win out as something that you wanted to play in college?
I really just did wrestling because, I mean, it was something else to do. I was kind of bored the rest of the season, same thing with track and field, but football's always been my passion. I've been playing it since I was 6 years old, so it's kind of been the thing that I've always loved.
All right. Coach, when you came in, you inherited these two players with a lot of the other players as well. So what did you learn about them as far as players, and what do you think of them and the contribution they make to the team?
We'll just start with Morgan. Obviously, the leader for our special teams units. First thing I noticed about him was just his dedication, his passion for the art of long snapping. I think that stands out right away. With Tristan, when they told me that he was a punter, yes, and also a defensive back, and also, plays all the other special teams, I kind of had to take a double take. But Tristan's the picture of a team first player, and not only is he a punter, but he affects the game on the other special teams and on defense. He's a very trusted player. So I learned that very quickly about these guys, and it's awesome coaching them. All
right, let's talk about the art of both of what you guys do. I'll start with you first, Tristan, because one of the things I noticed is you didn't have a whole lot of punting opportunities in the game this week, but when you did, you had to pin Moorhead, and you punted with the point of the ball down, and you're able to get the spin so that the other guys could go down and down it inside the 5. Tell us a little bit about that and about your decisions on how to punt the ball.
Yeah, generally there's a little bit of an art to it, and it's challenging when when you're too close to really kick it like a normal punt, and you're just in the right amount of time when you're around the 50-yard line, where you kind of got to keep the tip down of the ball so that it will either roll really slowly or it'll roll like with a backspin and bounce back. So that's kind of when we're around the 50-yard line, that's kind of when I switch up to that rugby style, so that it makes it a little easier for guys to get under it and it hangs up there a little bit more. But other than that, yeah, I mean, once we get a little farther back than that, then I can switch back to the normal punting. But yeah.
And then Morgan, for you, I know a lot of eyes are on you when you're the long snapper, because the punter has to get the snap right, and especially place kicking Jake Scott. He had 4 40-yard tries this week, and the snap has to be perfect in order for him to be able to hit that down. So tell us a little bit about what you have to do as a long snapper.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's stressful, especially when you got to be perfect every time. Like, nobody notices a long snapper unless they mess up, right? So it's mainly just staying warmed up on the sidelines, knowing what I gotta do, staying focused, being at my level to perform. So.
And then I think the other part that people don't really focus on is that you could get hit pretty hard after you snap the ball, and you're pretty defenseless after you snap the ball. Tell us a little bit about what goes into that and how you practice that.
You kind of just got to grin and bear it sometimes. Last week, or 2 weeks ago against Bemidji, I ran down, Sam Shutter got blocked in the back, and I took out my knee. So that was a pretty rough game, but still trying to bounce back from that. Yeah, you just got to stay on your toes. Sometimes you got to take and bear it, especially on PAT, but it's part of the job.
All right. And for both of you, and we'll start with Morgan, I'm sure a lot of casual football fans think, oh, special teams, all they do is they go out there, they kick in practice, they can goof around, they don't really have anything else to do. No, that's not the case. Tell us about what you have to do during practice in order to, be able to be good at your position.
Long snapping, well, all special teams guys, it's a very technical game. So focusing on the very, very minor details can make all the difference. So, I mean, when you're practicing, you got to practice with intent. You can't just go out there and loaf a rep, because that's never going to get you right, you know what I mean? So, yeah, just being very detail oriented.
All right, same thing for you, Justin?
Yeah, very similar, and it's a little different for me where I'm not, I have to practice, obviously, safety during practice, and then so it's a little bit before, after, on my own, and really stretching has been the biggest help for me, is constantly doing that, and just doing the ball drops regularly, and,
All right, Coach, I got to ask you about the 4 40-yard field goals from Jacob Scott. I believe that it's the first time in school history that a kicker has hit 4 40-yard field goals in a game. He had only made it from 26 coming into the week, 0 of 1 from 40 plus. But you had to trust in him to be able to knock down not only that first one, but then after. Tell us a little bit about the decisions that went into go for the field goals.
Yeah, started with a good week of practice for him. We compete every week. We have a lot of kickers that do a good job, and Jake competes, and every week he comes out and wins the job over and over again. And then he had a great pregame where he was extending his long, and I was like, man, you're really going here still. So when it got to that point where we had to make a decision, do we go or do we kick it? We had all the faith in the world that Jake would knock it through, and he not only did it once, but 3 more times, and it was awesome. It was a celebration every time. So, and as you alluded to, it doesn't happen without a great snap, a great hold.
Now that first 48 just barely cleared the crossbar. You sent him on for the second 48, and that happened again. But how did you have the faith in him after that first 48? Because it had to be kind of a perfect kick again, like I said, with a perfect snap that second time out.
Kicking is a confidence game. It's a lot like golf, where if you swing too hard, it's going to go too far right, too far left. You got to be just right. You got to be confident. And Jake was on a high where he was confident. He was at his number, and the rest of the operation was clicking as well as it has in my entire time here. So again, I had all the confidence. Once he put one through, he was going to keep doing it, and he did 8 times. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and I appreciate you taking the time to kind of show us how important the special teams was. It definitely showed through during the game this week, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Warrior Report. When we come back, we'll come back with Coach Bergstrom to talk about this week. Wayne State is on the agenda. That's right after this.
Days of classic pro wrestling, you can relive them right here with Classic All-Star Wrestling, featuring wrestling from the 50s to the 90s, the 4 top decades in the history of professional wrestling, from Gorgeous George to New Jack. It's all right here. Classic All-Star Wrestling. Fans, you're not going to want to miss it. Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jerry the King Lawler, and more.
Major League Baseball on Fox and FS1.
Hey, what I'm doing, getting right to it. The money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, spin on live, you don't believe it, just watch.
Jaw-dropping stuff. Major League Baseball all season long on Fox and FS1.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Russell and Associates and coming to you from the Latch Development Center at 111 Riverfront Street in downtown Winona. Coach Bergstrom joins us once again to talk about this coming week, which is another home game, but it's against Wayne State. They're a 4-0 team. Tell us a little bit about what you know about Wayne and what the challenge is to prepare for them this week.
Yeah, it's they're 4-0 for a reason, and they play really hard. You can sense that right away when you start watching the film. But they know what they're doing, so they're confident, and they do some good schematical things on offense, defense, and special teams with the combination of guys playing fast. And they have good athletes, and they're big up front, and this will be a great challenge. It'll be a great environment again at home. Excited to play at home again, and it's going to be a good game.
Now, you said that you gave your team a B for this week. I think the grade has been kind of going up every week, but what are some of the things that you feel you need to clean up before the Wayne State game?
We need to be more consistent. What we've shown is what we're capable of, and we need to do that all the time. And that's not just a game thing, that's a practice thing, it's a weight room thing, it's a meeting thing, it's a living life thing, class. I mean, it's everything. We need to be more consistent in our attention to detail, and which leads into discipline. And we do have a very high standards in our program, and high standards for the discipline that is required to win a championship. And we don't focus on championship. We say that's our long-term goal, but what are the things we got to do to act like a champion before we win a championship? And for us, it really comes down to all the little things and increasing our consistency there. But on the field, we got to continue to take care of the football, win the takeaway battle. Did a great job of limiting our penalties, only had 2 down from 12. Keep playing complementary football, keep being the more physical team on the field. When we do those things, we feel like we'll be at our best.
How do you feel about the offense? Because this past week you kind of relied on field goals. You had the pick six, and then you had the punt block for a touchdown. I know that you don't want to have to go for field goals, but you're able to get those. How do you turn those into touchdowns, and how does that happen this week?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're exactly right that certainly the more touchdowns you get, the higher odds, but you'll take points, and Jacob Scott did a great job with the whole operation, the snap, the hold, the kick, the protection, and that's a strategy for what do you go for? Do you go for the touchdown? And we did that 2 times on the 1-yard line, and obviously came up short, and it helped us in the field position battle, but it's one, you don't panic. 2, you keep practicing it, and you practice that specific area of the field, because we've been doing a good job of moving the ball, and sometimes get stalled out in that right outside the red zone or right when we get in the red zone, and it's a different game down there. The field's smaller, you don't have as much room downfield. So for us, it's emphasizing it, it's continuing to coach it. We certainly have a great plan in place and really good players to go do it, and we need to keep working on it, and don't panic.
All right, last question then. Injury-wise, I know you had one, looked like a pretty serious injury this week, but how are you coming into the Wayne State game?
Yeah, I think we're okay. We're not perfect by any means, but it's college football, and we're going into week 5. So we had a couple dings, but everybody that was dinged up on this last weekend, I'm pretty sure they're going to be back by this weekend. So it was nothing for sure season ending or anything like that. So super positive that way.
Very good to hear. Thank you again for the time. Congratulations on this week, and good luck this week against Wayne State.
Thank you very much, Justin. Excited to see you this weekend.
All right, sounds good. And hopefully you'll join us as well this weekend, 1 o'clock on Saturday against Wayne State. You can watch that here on HBC TV 25. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here on the Warrior Report on HBC.